Well, hiya, BookTube. Bill Ruttenberg here with the Ruttenberg Library. Wanted to come to you today with a weekly reads and this week's book haul. This week's book haul is not going to be a complete book haul because I believe Thursday I'm going to get a chance to go to the Books Revisited again, and so I'll add to that. But that'll be on the next book haul video. But anyway, my weekly reads. It's been a pretty good week of reading. I got 2 books finished, and I have now got my sights set on a book that I've been working on for a couple of months, and I am going to get it finished by the end of June. That is my current plans anyway. So the first book that I finished, I got to get it back to the library today, but it is Our Team, The Epic Story of 4 Men in the World Series That Changed Baseball by Luke Eplin. And this was an absolutely awesome book. It's one that I would like to eventually, if I can find it, I'd like to put it into my personal collection. But this is from Flatiron Books out of New York, and it is from this year. This is a new release, 2021. But basically what this story is the story of the Cleveland Indians and their owner, Bill Veeck. He had plans to take over a baseball team and turn it into a winner. And when Cleveland came up for sale, he bought it and started doing just about anything and everything to bring the crowds back to the stadium and then to put a winning team on the field. And one of the things that he saw that needed to definitely happen in order to put a winning team on the field, for that immediate changeover, because usually that's a couple years endeavor if you're a baseball owner to turn a team around. He wanted to do it very quickly, within a year or two. And the way to attack this goal of turning Cleveland back into a winning baseball team was to tap into the Negro Leagues. The Brooklyn Dodgers had done that with Jackie Robinson, and he had plans to do the exact same thing. So he would become the very first American League owner to put an African American person on his baseball team. And of course, he bought the team in 1947, and by time 1948 rolled around, they had a winning team on the field, and they ended up going to the World Series. And he is going to put Larry Doby in center field, and Larry Doby will become the second African-American man to play in Major League Baseball. Of course, he's always overshadowed by Jackie Robinson, the first one, but he's the first. Doby will be the first in the American League. And then Bill Veeck, towards the second half of the season, will also bring in Satchel Paige, of course, who was a fan favorite. So this whole book kind of goes back and forth between 4 stories. It goes back and forth between Satchel Paige, Larry Doby, Bill Veeck, and of course Bob Feller, who was the Cleveland prodigal child who could do no wrong, at least in the early part of his career, could do no wrong. And everyone wanted to see Bob Feller get a World Series victory. And in order for him to get there, he was going to have the help. And throughout the book, it also goes back and forth talking about the barnstorming that happened, those baseball games that happened after the Major League season, where they would take baseball to the smaller towns across, a lot of it across the Midwest. And a lot of those games you would see white teams playing African American teams, and it would be Bob Feller versus Satchel Paige. That was always the big game that would draw the biggest crowds. And of course, Bob Feller, who lost several years in World War II, he lost several years in his career to World War II. was looking to regain his financial footing, and the barnstorming was going to be a way of making some money on the side. And throughout that whole process, they drew very, very large crowds, and the games went back and forth. African American teams actually did very, very well against their white opponents, and it showed that that African Americans probably belonged in Major League Baseball, but the white owners had kind of built up a unwritten rule that they wouldn't bring them in. And of course, Branch Rickey of the Brooklyn Dodgers broke that rule and brought in Jackie Robinson amongst in a couple of others as the next year came in. We had who was it? Roy Campanella and oh goodness, now I'm going blank. There was another one that came in, and the Cleveland Indians followed suit, and they brought in Larry Doby and Satchel Paige. And sadly for Major League Baseball, it would be a while before, a few years before the other teams would follow suit and start to integrate baseball. But anyway, this whole book is the wonderful story of the Cleveland Indians and their huge turnaround in 1947-48 to turn them from the bottom of the league to the World Series champions. And it's the story of those four individuals and how they had a major, major effect on baseball. And a lot of this, there's a theme running through the whole story about holding out hope and having faith that this was going to happen. And of course, for Satchel Paige, this was rough because he was an old man at this point. But as the story tells, there's later on, towards the end of the story, it talks about the later parts of their careers and, what happened later in life. And here Satchel Paige was, he came in and pitched in a major league game in 1950, or excuse me, he pitched in a major league game at 59 years old, not 1959, 59 years old, and did very, very well, showing that he still had the stuff. And anyway, I would highly, highly recommend any baseball fans to read this book, Our Team. It reads real easy. It is for the novice reader as well as a seasoned baseball fan. It is very well written, and I thoroughly, thoroughly enjoyed it. I highly recommend that. That was the first one that I had finished last week. And then the one that I finished, I got to really working on that. I've actually been kind of chipping away at it, but I started making chunks on it this last week, was Kristen Hanna's The Great Alone. And I've been talking about this for the past couple of months. Not that it's taken me that long to read it. It's just that I only read little tidbits here and there. But like I said, this last week I took some huge chunks out of it and got it. I read like 300 of the 400 pages this last week. And oh my goodness, this is a great story. Please, if you have a chance, go pick this up. And I say great story, it's very sad. It's about a family who moves to Alaska, and the dad in the family is a Vietnam vet who had been taken as a POW, and he has got some major, major trauma from the Vietnam War. He's got PTSD big time, and he has got some huge anger problems. You find that his character from before the war to after the war, he's a totally different person. But his wife loves him, and she sticks by him. And of course, they have a little girl. And this whole story is written pretty much from the point of view of this little girl. And this is a love story, believe it or not. It is a story about all the different angles of love. How deep is your love? How strong is your love? How long can your love last? And as the little girl, let's see, what is her name? Lenny Albright goes through this story. She watches her dad they go up to Alaska, and it's all fine and dandy in the summer, but when winter hits, winter is long and hard, and it is very cold, and it really brings out the worst in her father, Ernst Albright. He's an abusive man, very, very abusive, but her mother just loves him and sticks by him and makes excuses for him that everything will be all right, Lenny. Don't worry, everything will be all right. He didn't mean to do that. And to me, it sickened me because, love is not abusive. Love is kind and caring. And I understand he had PTSD issues and all the issues that come from the war, but you just don't beat your wife. You just don't do that. And so this is a story of not just love, but survival. Will the family survive the father's anger and abuse? And Lenny, along the way, the book takes Lenny from a little girl to a teenager into adulthood. And it shows not just her mom's love for her dad and her, of course, love for her parents, and this, how far will that love be stretched, but it also is a love story of Lenny who meets her future, let's see, what is his name? I am going blank. She gets in a relationship with, I apologize, I am going blank on names, with Matthew. Matthew's his name. And she falls in love with Matthew. And so we see the story of the love story of Matthew and Lenny. And it's a true love story. It is beautiful. Now, this is a book of sadness, a book of heartache, and you will ache and you might even tear up as you're reading this. I know I did. Towards the end of the book, I was tearing up. I felt terrible for just the circumstances of everything. But anyway, I think I'm rambling enough. I would highly, highly recommend Kristen Hanna's The Great Alone. If you're looking for a love story and a story of survival, a true family tragedy, pick this up. Anyway, that's what I've been reading. And of course, like I said earlier in the video, I am looking to knock out the Civil War. This is going to be my morning read until I get it done. I'm not picking up another book in the morning until this is done. And so I am on page 600 this morning, and there's a little over 800 pages in the book. So I'm about 3/4 of the way done. We are at the point in the Civil War when McClellan is on the peninsula. He has just been ordered to withdraw, and John Pope is up by Manassas, and Robert E. Lee is trying to figure out what to do, and he is now moving his troops. And yeah, it's a good book. It's a little slower paced for me anyway, but I plan on chunking this thing and getting it done in June. So I'll give you updates on where I'm at with that. So this week's books, what did I pick up? So this is what I picked up for free. I'll show you the freebies first. So freebies this week, I picked up another copy of Gone with the Wind, which I hope that it's just a paperback here. I hope to read this with my daughter before she goes off to college. That was one of our original plans. This is an Avon Books. Of course, the original was 1936. This copy is 1960. No, not 64. 73. 7th printing, 1973, and kind of a cool cover. I like the little painting there with the lovers, of course, and the plantation in the background. I do, and then in the back, it's got, of course, a war scene because this is a Civil War fictional book. That was a freebie. And then I picked up some of these, what I call them middle school classics for me, stuff that's they're feel-good stories, more because they're what I read when I was in upper elementary, junior high, and I read all of them in the library, and every time I find them for free or for very, very little, I pick them up. So this is the story of Abraham Lincoln. Of course, this can go into my permanent collection. This is by Nina Brown Baker, illustrated by Warren Baumgartner. And of course, I love these illustrations. Look at those illustrations. That's great. That's good stuff. So anyway, this is a Grosset and Dunlap book out of New York, and it is from the year 1952. So, story of Abraham Lincoln, enough said. Don't need to really explain that. The next one is the story of Thomas Jefferson by Earl Schenck Myers, and I have another book by him. He's actually a pretty big name author. Illustrated by Reynolds C. Pollock. Another great illustration on the front. I love it. So this is again from Grosset and Dunlap out of New York, and it's a 1955 book. I got Benjamin Franklin by Robin McNown, and this is a G.P. Putnam Sons out of New York, and it's a 1963 book, and real basic one. Got a whole bunch of Lives to Remember series on the back. Here's another one, the real book about Benjamin Franklin. I didn't get a cover with this, a paper cover, a jacket cover with this. This is just the hardback, but it is from Garden City Books out of Garden City, New York, and it's by Samuel Epstein and Burrell Williams. Those are the authors, and it's a 1952 book. Kind of a neat little cover. Nothing on the back there. The next one is the Marquis de Lafayette, Bright Sword for Freedom by Hodding Carter. And this is one of those landmark books. Those are the ones that I really like, the ones that I read like everything in the library when I was a kid, the landmark books. And it is E.M. Hale and Company out of Eau Claire, Wisconsin. And it's a 1958 book. Absolutely love that cover. That is cool. You got the Marquis de Lafayette, and you got Washington in there, and that's just really neat. And then the next one is Balboa, Discoverer of the Pacific by Jeanette Mirsky. Pictures by Hans Guggenheim. That is a neat cover also. I like these. And I got these from the library is where I got them. They were cleaning out their shelves and stuff. Let's see. Jeanette Mirsky was the author, edited by Walter Lord. This is a E.M. Hale and Company, and it is 1964. And so again, these might not add a ton to my, just overall knowledge of the subject matter, but they are probably more of a, just something that reminds me of my childhood. I really like those kind of books. So let's get to the more serious readings that I was able to pick up. So my wife and I went on a little shopping trip on Sunday, and we went to Barnes & Noble up in Des Moines, and I picked up a couple of books at Barnes & Noble. This is The River of Doubt, Theodore Roosevelt's Darkest Journey by Candace Millard. And that is a really cool cover. I've seen this, and I just hadn't had a chance to get it. And so when I saw it, I was like, yeah, I think I'll pick that up. It's from Anchor Books out of New York, division of Random House, and it's a 2005 book, so it's not brand new. It's 16 years old, but still a newer title. I still consider it a newer title. Let me read the back cover of this one to you. The River of Doubt. It is a black, uncharted tributary of the Amazon that snakes through one of the most treacherous jungles in the world. After his humiliating election defeat in 1912, Theodore Roosevelt set his sights on the most punishing physical challenge he could find, the first descent of an unmapped, rapids-choked tributary of the Amazon. Together with his son Kermit and Brazil's most famous explorer, Candido Mariano de Silva Rondon, Roosevelt faced an unbelievable series of hardships. They lost their canoes and supplies to punishing whitewater rapids and endured starvation, Indian attack, disease, drowning, and a murder within their own ranks. In the end, 3 men would die, and Roosevelt would be brought to the brink of suicide, but the expedition accomplished a seemingly impossible feat and changed the map of the Western Hemisphere forever. So this isn't necessarily, dealing with this politics. This is more after the fact. What do you do when you lose? Nobody likes to lose. And so what do you do with yourself to kind of escape that sick feeling? And of course, Roosevelt, after that election, he went exploring. So hope to go on the journey with him there. The next one that I picked up at Barnes & Noble was This Republic of Suffering, Death in the American Civil War by Drew Gilpin Faust. And you can see the cover there. Now, if you could see, it's based on, or this, let's see, American Experience, Death in the Civil War, directed by Rick Burns. Watch it on PBS. I did watch that, and I really liked it. I've actually watched it a couple of times. I really liked that, and so when I saw this book, and then I saw that this documentary was linked in with it, I didn't realize there was a book to it. I just didn't pay attention, I guess. But I was real excited to get this because I really enjoyed this. I thought it was very, very interesting documentary. So I'll show you the rest of the book here. So anyway, I picked this up, and of course, being a Civil War fan, this is right up my alley. But this is from Vintage Civil War Library, Vintage Books, Division of Random House out of New York, and it is a 2008 book. Read the back cover to you. It says, more than 600,000 soldiers lost their lives in the American Civil War. An equivalent proportion of today's population would be 6 million. In this Republic of Suffering, Drew Gilpin Faust reveals the ways that death on such a scale changed not only individual lives, but the life of the nation, describing how the survivors managed on a practical level and how a deeply religious culture struggled to reconcile the unprecedented carnage with its belief in a benevolent God. Throughout, the voices of soldiers and their families, of statesmen, generals, preachers, poets, surgeons, nurses, Northerners, Southerners, come together to give us a vivid understanding of the Civil War's most fundamental and widely shared reality. So like I said, I watched this documentary, and it was excellent. I highly recommend, let me put that up there again, I highly recommend going and finding that documentary. It was very interesting on just death in the Civil War and how it affected the American psyche. But I saw that, watched it a couple different times while I was getting my classroom ready. What was it, 2 years ago, I think? Maybe 3 years ago. But I was getting my classroom ready, and I had that playing in the background. And then I went and watched the actual video, not just listened to the audio, but watched the actual video. So thoroughly interested in that. So this Republic of Suffering just sounds like it's going to be very interesting. Now, on the shelves in your local Walmarts and Targets and just about everywhere else, I saw the memoirs of Barack Obama, Promised Land. And I'd seen that, and I had told my wife, I'd kind of like to read that. She kind of looked at me weird because she knows I'm conservative by nature. And I said, no, really, I think it would be kind of neat. It's definitely a historical, his presidency was a historical event. And I'm always willing to listen to all sides of the equation. I am not one who just beats one side of the drum here. I listen to all sides of the argument. So I found this one at... where were we? TJ Maxx. And they had it marked down big time because the cover was kind of tattered. And so instead of paying $45 for a brand new book, I only paid $16, which is still way more than what I normally pay for a book. But I've got this brand new, other than the cover, the book itself is in brand new condition. There's nothing wrong with it. And I've got this memoir to get started on with Barack Obama. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I hope it's good. Hope it was not, wasted money. I usually do not buy current histories by, or memoirs. I don't normally do that, but that one, for whatever reason, it struck me as that could be a good book. It could be interesting, and so I picked it up. So anyway, The next couple books I got at the Friends of the Library cart in the library in our local town. And so I bought these for $1. I found Poldark, Ross Poldark by Winston Graham. Of course, it's got the TV cover. Now, this book, it's a PBS series on TV, and I've seen it several times. Let's see, this book is a not 1915. It is a 2015 book from Source Books, and I've seen this on TV advertisements for it. I did not know if it was going to be any good. I was kind of interested. It always made the commercials always made it look pretty decent, and I saw this, and then they've got a whole bunch of the other parts of the series on that cart, and they've been there for a couple weeks, so I'm guessing that if I like this, I could go and pick those up and not have any problems buying them. Not, nobody's going to take them because they've been there already for a while. But anyway, I wanted to give this a shot and see if the series is any good. And it was only $1, so you can't go wrong. In the first novel in Winston Graham's hit series, a weary Ross Poldark returns to England from war, looking forward to a joyful homecoming with his beloved Elizabeth, but instead he discovers his father has died, his home is overrun by livestock and drunken servants, and Elizabeth, believing Ross to be dead, is now engaged to his cousin. Ross has no choice but to start his life anew. Thus begins the Poldark series, a heartwarming, gripping saga set in the windswept landscape of Cornwall, with an unforgettable cast of characters that spans loves, lives, and generations. This extraordinary masterpiece from Winston Graham is a story you will never forget. And so I'm hoping that'll be good, and it'll make me want to buy the other ones. So a couple books left. This one was also from the Friends of the Library. It's from Jeff Shahara. It is No Less Than Victory, a novel of World War II. And I picked up recently a couple of his other books, and so this is hardback. I was real excited to see that for only $1, and it is Ballantine Books from out of New York, and it is a 2009 book, and so I'm real excited to pick that up. He's got great fiction, and yeah. So last book on this, well, no, I found another one sitting here. We got a couple of them here. This one was, I had told you before that I was recommended in the comments section to pick up Library of America, The Civil War. And so I picked up the first 2 volumes. I showed you volume 2 in an earlier video, and volume 1 came in the mail right after that. And so this is the first year told by those who lived it, edited by Brooks D. Simpson, Stephen W. Sears, and Aaron Sheehan Dean. And so, sorry about the glare. So I got that. So I've got now the first 2 books in the Library of America series. And this is, again, Library of America. It's from 2011, but this is really neat. It's all primary sources, just like the other one, but it's got stuff from like the Charleston Mercury, which is a southern newspaper. What shall South Carolina legislature do? November 3rd, 1860. So it's calling a secession convention in November of 1860. Got John G. Nicolay, Memoranda Regarding Abraham Lincoln from November of 1860. You got let's see, Sam Houston to H.M. Watkins and others. I am for the Union as it is. It's got Edward Bates's diary, This Dangerous Game in Missouri. Frederick Douglass talking about the late election. And so anyway, you kind of get the idea. It's got some pretty famous names here where it tells the story of the Civil War through their writings. And I'm really looking forward to dipping into this and just taking it, real slow, a little bit at a time, and just really thoroughly enjoying it. All right, and so now I've got the last book on the book haul for you. So this one's kind of a funny story. My wife was in St. Joe well, it was a week ago or so, and I had ball games to coach, and so I couldn't go. And she had asked me, "Is there anything you want from St. Joe?" And I said, "Yeah, well, if you see some books along the way, you might think of me, you know." And she just started laughing, and I didn't figure she was going to look at all. Well, anyway, she went to Books Revisited for me and looked around, and please remember, my wife is not the connoisseur of books like I am. And she got to looking, and she's always afraid she's going to buy something I already have. That's basically the biggest problem. But anyway, she found Short Lines, a collection of classic American railroad stories, edited by Rob Johnson, illustrated by Don Hazlitt. And so she picked this up for me. I don't know if I'm going to like it or not. She goes, "If you don't like it, just donate it." She didn't pay, much for it. So this says, featured in the pages of weekly magazines, railroad fiction was a popular genre from 1895 through the 1930s, the heyday of the American railroad travel. Railroad storytellers were chroniclers of American psyche, celebrating the human triumph over wilderness, the freedom to be found in long-distance journeys in the sense of endless possibility. Short Lines is a glistening ensemble of 14 railroad stories that will take you back to that era, bringing to life the engineers, conductors, tramps, steam locomotives, and abandoned boxcars of bygone days. It offers a tantalizing views of the world of the Iron Horse, a Pullman porter's vibrant description of life on the tracks, a hobo's tale of a cross-country jaunt in pursuit of a friend, and the personal reminiscence of a notorious train robber. In prose as precise and powerful as the machines they so strikingly describe, O. Henry, Jack London, Thomas Wolfe, Rudyard Kipling, Owen Wister, and A.W. Somerville, among others, capture the throb of life along the rails in a time when the railroad was the only link between the Atlantic and the Pacific, a time when railroading fueled the American imagination. And so my wife, tried to get me something she thought I'd like. I don't know if I'll like it. I started the introduction and I got into the first story. I got to get back to it. But like I said, my number one priority is the Civil War and narrative. So I don't know when I'll get back to it. I'll probably put it on the bedside and bedside table and maybe work on that, little by little before I go to bed. So anyway, BookTube, this is what I've got for the last week. It's what I've been reading. It's been a good week. We've had some late night ball games this last week where I didn't get home till midnight or so, and so getting up early in the morning, I'm kind of tired, and so I haven't got maybe time-wise as much reading as I wanted to get done, but I've been able to in the afternoons pick up these other two books and make some chunks out of them. Just haven't been able to do it in the mornings like I normally do. So anyway, good reading week. I hope everybody else is having a good reading week. Hope everybody's safe and healthy and all that good stuff. So thank you for watching BookTube. If you have any comments on any of this stuff, go ahead and leave that down in the comments section. If you've read these, if you're familiar with the titles, thank you to all the new subscribers. Really appreciate that. And until next time, BookTube, happy reading.